I don't want to go too much into the coronavirus, but I wanted to add value to what I can do. And what I've noticed is many organizations are having people work from home. If you already work from home, you're probably starting to get prepared. A lot of speakers out there, a lot of the conferences have been canceled, and that is their livelihood for many people. So I wanted to share today on the power of being prepared, also how to work from home, and also the power of virtual meetings and video and speaking, and how that can help you and how to stay connected. So that's what we're going to talk about today. How can we reduce our stress? And for those of us who are working from home, a lot of companies have said, okay, now it's time to work from home. Now what do? Right? How do you stay productive, professional, and still show up the way you want working from home? So I thought this would be a great opportunity, a way to help you amongst all the stress. If you still need to stay productive at home, for those of you who are entrepreneurs already working at home, this is a perfect opportunity for you to finally get your video office or your setup ready. For those of you who are moving from the office to home, now you're like, great, I have to do virtual meetings and virtual speaking engagements and still engage with my customers. How do I do this in this uncertain time? So today I wanted to talk through a few tips that would help you if you are working from home. First thing that I wanted to talk about is the technical aspect. Okay, right now, you see I've been working from home or shooting my videos, or I even coach from my studio. This studio is my front living room that is open in the day, and I've designed it so it looks like a studio. So for you, the first thing you need to do is to set up your right space. And setting up your right space, partially for some people, mean your office space where you're clear to work, but also if you are having video conferences or virtual meetings, a video space. And that space should be somewhat quiet. You want to make sure that you have a good internet connection. I make sure that I have a good internet connection. I also hardwire into my system as well as with Wi-Fi. Now I'm talking about backdrop. Behind me, now if you're listening on the podcast, you can't see me, but for your backdrop, you want to make sure that it's not cluttered. Now, you may think, well, I'm not shooting professional videos. This doesn't pertain to me. But if you are a leader in your industry and now you're working from home where you're out of that corporate environment, don't you want to be in an environment that still shows credibility and expertise? So it doesn't need to be fancy, but what you do need to is make sure that your background is not cluttered. For me, my background fits my brand. I have an orchid in the background. It's very white. There's some natural light coming in, and that's just my energy. For you, if you're doing a makeshift one, you just want to make sure it's not cluttered. You're somewhat balanced in the middle of the screen, that your head's not cut off, that the camera is not shooting up your nose, that you kind of have a direct look at the camera. You have enough headspace on the top for your video, and that you're centered in the camera. Now, this may seem very technical, but it makes a huge difference in how you're connecting with, whether it's your peers or you're leading a meeting. It shows a lot more credibility. Number 3, your lighting. Okay, right now I look really well lit. I have a ring light. You may not want to be as fancy as that. So the thing that you can do is make sure you do not sit with your near a window with it behind you. Do you see the window over here? If you sit near a window with the light behind you, then the light is not on your face. You look dark and gloom, and then everything else gets washed out. So it's not as productive. You want to make sure you turn around with your face towards the window with natural light shining on you. So if you can position your video area or where you're going to have your video meeting near a natural light window, that can be very productive. Now, you may not have a natural seat or an area that faces that way. You want to make sure you create that space, especially for your virtual meetings. So you could have one space for working and one space where you shoot your videos or have your virtual meetings. Now, for me, I am not sitting near a window. There is not a window near me. So I bought a ring light, a Diva ring light. I can put it in some of the show notes, but a Diva ring light is about $200+. And you don't need to invest that much. Online, you can buy all kinds of different lights, whatever suits you. I just have not used those, so I do not know which one is effective. But if you have a good light on you, that adds to your credibility. Number 4, a good camera. So the number one thing that I think that you should invest in that is very inexpensive is a Logitech HD 1080p webcam. Now, this webcam is the one I'm using right now. And this webcam just gives a more crisp HD view. Not your first priority. If you're just getting, you can just use uh, the camera that is on your computer. But if you do have some extra time and you're going to be staying home for a while and doing a lot of virtual meetings, I suggest that you get the webcam. It's 60 to 70 bucks. I have an older model. The new models are great. It gives a wide view and it gives a really good, crisp, clean look. I'm also going to give you some tricks. So I usually shoot my meetings on Zoom. Zoom is a great platform for those of you who are not familiar. There are other platforms out there. And Zoom, that is how I've been able to do my podcast. I record my podcast on Zoom. I shoot it on video, and I also pull off the audio. It's also how I have my video meetings, my coaching sessions. So if you are trying to figure out capabilities, it's really easy. If you have an internet connection, it gives you your own number for each person to dial in. I'm not an advocate for Zoom. I'm not an affiliate for them. I'm just going to show you a few things of what I use. So within Zoom, it's amazing. I can coach my clients on Zoom, right? They get the link. And then when I use ScreenFlow, if you'd like to, you can even record the screen and I can actually coach them and send it back in real time and we watch it together. Now, that's probably not something that you're going to be doing, but if you are a coach, that's something that you can do. Because I do on-camera training, I actually not just tape on Zoom in real time, but I also record the Zoom if they're practicing their speech or practicing their video, and then I can play it back to them using my ScreenFlow recording. Now, that's very advanced for those of you who just want to know how to use Zoom. I'm sure there's lots of Zoom tutorials, but that's an extra step. But for your basic step, all you have to do is press start meeting, start camera, start microphone, or start audio, and then you are on Zoom with that person. I want to give you a couple advanced tricks too. So if you're on Zoom and maybe that day, you're like, I don't feel like my backdrop's not great, or I'm not feeling so ready or camera ready. There's two tools that I use. If you go, that actually softens your skin, softens your look if you're not quite ready, and also one that creates a different backdrop if you're not in an area that has a good backdrop. So if you go under Zoom, preferences, then under settings and video, if you look up, there's checking a box. You can check touch up my appearance. It actually softens the screen a bit if you're feeling like you don't want to be on that virtual meeting that day. And there's also something for a virtual background that you can click that will actually change your backdrop if you're not ready. So that are a few Zoom tips. So again, the Logitech C920 webcam, or you can just use your computer camera. But if you're starting to get more involved, like I said, this is a great opportunity if you are an executive now working from home to start thinking about these options. If you are an entrepreneur that's been wanting to set up your video space anyway, this is a great time to start thinking about what part of my house do I want to be in? How do I want to come across? What do I need to do? Because I'm going to be doing a lot of virtual speaking, a lot of virtual meetings, and things where I want to show up the way I want to show up in my leadership and have that reflect. And just because I'm at home, I don't want it to seem any different than when I'm at work. That's if you use your computer. Now I have some tips. Maybe you just want something casually. How about if you want to do FaceTime? FaceTime. I want to show you, and I'll bring this in. For those of you listening, I'm bringing in, this is a tripod, okay, an inexpensive tripod that I bought on Amazon, I think for like 20 bucks. And this is a camera clip that you can actually put your iPhone and clip on it. If you look at iPhone adapters, tripod clips, I think it's like $5 to $10. And what that gives you the ability to do is to take your iPhone, if you're not using your webcam, and use that if you want to FaceTime for your meetings, or if you want to maybe tape a speech where you want to stand further back and you actually want to FaceTime but full body, you can create a perspective, and then on the FaceTime you can see. So that little clip, when you add it to a tripod, that allows you to not hold it anymore and be able to either run the meeting from the chest up or to actually stand and to give a presentation. So if that's something that you're interested in, that gives you an opportunity. I also want to talk about earphones and microphones. Yes, you can just do your meeting and the computer microphone will pick it up, or the webcam microphone will also pick it up. As you can see, I have a big pink mic right here because I'm also recording this for my podcast. For those of you listening, I record on a bright pink mic and I will be releasing some of those videos on YouTube. But this microphone right here gives deep audio quality that is great for podcasting. And it is an Audio Technica. What is this one? It is an Audio Technica ATR 2100 mic, and that is great for podcasting. But if you're just doing general videos for your business, just communicating through virtual meetings, you can just use the computer audio. But if you want to actually save the audio and use it for some type of recording, it's good to use either one of these big mics, or I also have right here, I have a lavalier mic. All right, a lavalier mic. This is also by Audio Technica. This is what I used to use in the news business. Lavalier just means that it doesn't have a mic stand. It kind of clips onto your shirt. This is an ATR 3350. There are a lot of lavalier mics, but I usually plug this into my computer if I'm doing interviews, and then you can't see the mic, but it can pick up better audio, especially if you're using that again. Now, another interesting thing is that you don't want feedback, so you want to make sure that you have earphones. I actually have earphones in right now. It's actually an IFB from my news days. An IFB is internal feedback, I believe, and it was an earpiece where I could hear my producers. But now I'm using it so you can't see the cord, but I can actually hear the audio playback. And some people just wear the big old headphones, as you see podcasters. But if you are working from home and you're doing a meeting and you're using a separate mic, you have to have an audio and a microphone, but you can also use just your earbuds on Apple, or your earbuds that have a microphone attached. The quality is not as good, but for a generic call that you're not recording for any reason, it still works. But something you need to remember is also the actual the adapters, depending on what computer you're using, right? So many of the microphones are USB microphones, so they used to plug right into my computer. Now they don't, because I got a new Apple Mac PowerBook and I needed all these dongles or adapters. So make sure that whatever mic or whatever devices that you're buying, that you know their inputs and that you have the right adapters for them. So I know that's a lot to think about. So number one, set up the right space, right? Your office space and your video space. Make sure you have the right background. It's not too cluttered and that it reflects you and your personality. Number three, good lighting, right? Whether you get a professional light or you sit near a window with the light on your face, not backlit behind you. Also, an option is to use FaceTime. If you use FaceTime or an iPhone or any other type of phone device, make sure that you get a tripod, and they also have phone clips to allow you to record much easier. And then again, for your microphone, if you're recording professionally, make sure you get a professional mic. Otherwise, the microphone on your computer or the webcam works just as well. And I also want to talk about performance now. Now, you wouldn't think in a virtual meeting you need to have performance, right? But here's a few things that I want to talk about. In a virtual, let's say you're having a meeting, not a presentation, a virtual meeting. You've called together a meeting and people are working from home. They don't want to get ready, right? They're not thinking about it's easier for them to multitask. If you are a leader and trying to bring your group together, it might be important to maybe say it is on camera, right? So people are focused, but you also want to respect people's time. And so just like in media, I always tell people what they can expect, right? Here's what's coming up. Maybe it's a good advice to have somewhat of an agenda, be really clear and concise on what are we going to cover today? What is our purpose? What is our outcome? And kind of set an agenda for the meeting and be really concise. Don't draw out everything. Maybe put the headline of what you want to talk about up at the top first, right? These are the three things we're going to cover today. First, this, then this, then this, and then I want your feedback from this, and hopefully we'll reach this decision. That way people are in tune, they're focused. And when you're talking to the camera, do you see how I'm talking to you right now? I know on the podcast you can't see, but if you really want to connect with your audience, you want to make sure that you look at the camera lens and not at yourself. When you look at yourself, your eyes go down. And when they go down, it's fine if you're just running a meeting, but if you're actually trying to connect with the person, you want to look directly at the camera because that's looking directly into their eyes. And so that's one way to connect. Another important thing is to make sure that you test your technology before you start so you don't have any problems. Many times when I do my podcasts or my interviews, we have some high profile guests and you don't want the internet to flake out on you. So I always make sure that I have the landline connection wired into the wall as well as my Wi-Fi. And basically, you just want to get really clear on those objectives. But also in terms of giving speeches, the most important thing you can do is really to be clear and concise and to communicate in a way that they know what's coming up, to look into the audience and to connect. So that is one of the things. And what about for the future, right? What are some of the things that we want to look at for the future if this continues? And I really think it's an interesting time right now in terms of connecting, right? Because we're not connected in a sense if we're in social distancing, but we can connect. A lot of people are working from home. Like right now, my husband, who usually travels a lot, is working from home. And that's also a new dynamic. So if you're working from home, creating boundaries of who uses what, when we're both on calls, if you're both loud. So that's a new dynamic that we're also going to have to juggle. And also just figuring out what you can and can't control. So I hope that these tips gave you a few options of just some of the options that you have now that you are working from home, and that it's important to stay prepared and to know that you can only control what you can control. So that is my advice for you now on this special live working from home, the power of being prepared, virtual meetings, speaking, and connecting. And I think that this is a time for us to really, if you are in the corporate world and you're trying to stay productive, a time to really try to figure out these new tools of what can you do from home? How can you still maintain and be productive in a new environment? For those of you who are speakers or making videos, it's hard because a lot of speaking engagements have been canceled. A lot of conferences have been postponed indefinitely. And so there's going to be a time and there's a space here. So we can see it as a panic, or we can see it as an opportunity. If you have your other things prepared, what is your next big thing? Maybe use this time to get really clear with yourself. What is the next thing? And really harness the power of the only that you could start working on. And just giving yourself the peace to know to step up for you, yourself, and your family. I know it's really chaotic out there. I don't know what's going to happen in the next few weeks and how things are going to shift, but I hope that you maintain somewhat of an internal calm, because stress is not productive to immunity either. And some of the things that I've been doing is really, I am prepared at home. I have stocked up on some of my supplies. I have been very serious. I use a humidifier at home to try to keep the air moist. I heard that that's actually helps kills germs and things like that. But I really wish you in this time that start thinking about, what's next. Use this time. Stay in control, stay calm, and I wish you all the love. And I'm sending you love, health, productivity, and I hope that you and your family stay safe. Thanks.